She's been telling me and my younger brother that she wants grandchildren since I was around 9 years old, but not super seriously, just in passing, at least until recently. For the past 2 weeks, she's been frequently asking questions and making statements like, "When I grow old, I'll hold your grandchildren," or "You're going to get married, right?" And each time I'm like, "No, I don't want children." It was very annoying, but it ended when we told her no. Now, in the past few days, she stopped asking my brother about it, but is increasingly pestering me about having a baby. The night before yesterday, I finally asked her to drop the subject because it was getting on my nerves, and she just started screaming. First, she shouted, "Who's going to take care of me when I get old?" I told her I'll die alone. Then she asked who's going to take care of her if I pass away. I told her son will. She calmed down and then went on about how I don't have to get married if I don't want to. I can just have a child via artificial insemination. That I could just have one child for her. I would be a great mother, etc., etc. She said that one child will be enough for me. I told her straight up she sounded creepy, and she started shouting about how both of us, me and my brother, never hug her or cuddle her anymore, and that she just misses holding us when we were babies. I didn't really know what to say to that, but told her that she can't make me have a baby if I don't want one. Then she said she'll force me to, and that. She was saying all this with a smile on her face, I guess in a jokey manner, but it didn't feel that jokey. I didn't reply and just ignored her. She started again a while later saying that she's going to go on a strike, aka starve herself, until I agree to have a baby when I turn 30. It was baffling. Of course I didn't believe her. She's very frail and weak and cannot go without some food for more than 5 hours throughout the day. I think she's also going through perimenopause because her migraines are increasing and her periods are becoming irregular. I'm wondering if that could be impacting her. As for why I don't want a baby or to get married, I don't think I've ever been attracted to any man or woman, like ever. I have babysat a lot of younger cousins, like complete newborns to 11-year-olds, and children are just annoying. Of course, it's different to just babysit for a few days or weeks, and being completely responsible for the life and well-being of an entire human being, and I don't think I'm built for it, personally. There's also the fact that I'm scared of being a bad mother. She hasn't raised me in the best of ways, and I'm scared of passing on my problems like she has with me and my brother's self-esteem, body insecurity, repressed emotions, disordered eating, etc. She doesn't realize she and us have these problems and is even proud of some of them. I don't want that for my child. She's had 3 failed marriages and 2 failed long-term relationships as well. So far, she's skipped breakfast. She didn't tell me her plans for making lunch, which was unusual. And when I asked her, she said to make me and my brother sandwiches. I was baffled again and told her that she needs to stop being stupid and eat something. She ignored me then, and is still ignoring me. She's had a cup of coffee as well, which is serious because she quit caffeine 2 years ago after struggling a lot to do so. And now she's just resumed? She's also stopped talking to my brother. I don't know what to do. Should I make a false promise? Or just let her starve and hope she comes to her senses? Because I don't want to have a baby and don't want to get married. And the moment I promise her, she's probably going to tell the entire extended family that I've agreed to have a baby, even if I ask her not to. When the time comes and I resist having a baby, she's going to probably lose her shoot. I've never broken any serious ones, but some relatives have, and she just gets miserable and fuming for weeks. The last time she was this crazy about a promise was about me and my brother taking care of her when she gets very old and not abandoning her, I think about 3 years ago. But she didn't threaten to starve herself and was just incessantly begging for a few hours. Because both of us quickly agreed to, then she told the entire extended family. So obviously this means a lot to her, but she's never threatened to harm herself like this, no matter the promise she made us keep. She's old, her health hasn't been the best in the past decade, and changes to her routine affect her a lot. So this is extremely worrying. Any advice is appreciated. Update, 10 chance after post, I genuinely was not expecting this many responses. Thank you all for the advice. I truly mean it. I've tried having a conversation with her for the last 2 hours to record it for proof in case I need it. Even saying some things to try to trigger her. I'm pretty sure that's the word for it. But she didn't budge until I brought up calling the ambulance. At the mention of calling the ambulance, she started speaking. She told me there was no need to bring up the hospital, which I highly doubt at this point, and then said she wasn't being serious anyway and told me to make her dinner. She said that when I get older, I will definitely change my mind, because according to her right now, I'm too immature and childish to understand that having a baby is a wonderful thing, apparently. Well, I just finished making her dinner and she's finally eating. So I guess she wasn't having a psychotic break? Probably being just extra manipulative, I guess. She still isn't really talking to either of us. I'm also not sure how she wasn't being serious when she spent the whole day not eating. I don't think I can get her involuntarily to a hospital since she stopped her strike and isn't a threat to herself anymore. I don't know what to do from here. I think I should mention that we're an Asian family, so taking care of older relatives is the norm, and moving out is seen as a white people thing, aka inconsiderate. I'm still going to move out when I get the opportunity. My brother is also only 14 and trying his best to help. Thank you all again for the advice. It didn't even cross my mind that you could call emergency services for this kind of thing, and now it seems like I can't. But it's good to know that you can. I'll try to convince her to see a doctor ASAP. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. What you should do is call medical services and tell them your mother's having a severe mental health episode and is starving herself as an attempt of self-harm, and you feel she needs immediate psychiatric care. You are 19 years old. I had a baby at 19. It's not easy. And many teens who have a baby end up living in poverty. The fact that she's starving herself because she wants you to give her a baby to cuddle is absolutely unhinged. If you can get out of that house, please do ASAP. Comment 2. I'd be interested to see how far she'll take it. Really, anyone that threatens self-harm to get their way is a horrible person. Call the cops on her and put her in a psychiatric ward. Tell her thank you, because if she starves herself to death, you will save money buying a smaller coffin and won't need as many pallbearers to carry that coffin because nobody cares enough to come to the funeral of such a selfish person. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, after that whole fiasco with my mom threatening to starve herself, things took a turn for the worse. I thought she'd calm down after eating dinner, but no, she had other plans. She went behind my back and told our entire family that I'd agreed to have a baby. I was furious. I mean, how could she? I confronted her and she just shrugged it off, saying it was for my own good. She said that once everyone was expecting it, I'd have to go through with it. Can you believe that? Then, as if that wasn't enough, she started playing the victim, telling everyone how I was denying her the joy of grandchildren. Relatives started calling, messaging, trying to guilt trip me. It was relentless. I felt like I was being walked all over, and I didn't know how to make it stop. In the midst of this, my brother, who's usually so supportive, turned on me. He said I was being selfish, that I should just give in for the sake of peace. I couldn't believe my own brother was siding with her. It felt like a betrayal. He was the one person I thought I could count on, and there he was telling me to just give up what I believe in. I was at my wit's end. I didn't know who to trust anymore. It felt like the walls were closing in on me. Then one of my aunts called. She's always been the nosy type, but this time she had something useful to say. She mentioned that my mom had been visiting a fertility clinic. I was shocked. I couldn't understand why she would do that. I did some digging, and turns out my mom had been talking to a doctor about finding a surrogate. She was planning to have a baby and pass it off as mine. I was speechless. The lengths she was willing to go to just to get what she wanted were unbelievable. I confronted her again, and this time, she broke down. She confessed that she felt alone, that her life had no purpose without grandchildren. She said she thought if she could just make it happen, I'd come around and thank her later. I didn't know what to do. I felt sorry for her, but I was also angry and hurt. I told her that what she was doing was wrong, that she couldn't just force these things. I said I'd support her in finding other ways to find fulfillment, but I wouldn't be a part of this baby scheme. She finally agreed to stop, but the damage was done. The family was in an uproar, and I was the villain in their eyes. I started making plans to move out. I couldn't live like this anymore. As for my brother, He apologized. He said he got caught up in the drama and didn't think about what I wanted. We're working on rebuilding our relationship, but it's going to take time. It's been a rough couple of weeks, but I'm standing my ground. I'm not going to be pressured into a life I don't want. It's not easy, but I'm trying to find a way through this mess. Thanks for reading. My family always left me without a bedroom on holidays. So I skipped the trip, and my brother-in-law helped me teach them a lesson in respect. I am a 29-year-old male, and I have been on 4 family holidays with my parents, who are in their 60s, my 31-year-old sister, and my sister's husband, who is 33 years old. The trips are fun, but I have always ended up without a bedroom in the holiday home my father books. It all started with a holiday trip to a small 2-bedroom cabin. One bedroom was for my parents, and the other for my sister and her husband. I was offered to sleep out on the balcony in a tent. I didn't make a big deal about it at the time, but later on I realized that I didn't enjoy the lack of privacy and not having my own space. It was frustrating to me that my parents didn't book a place where everyone had a bedroom. So I told my parents that in the future, I would greatly appreciate having my own room, and I was willing to pay the difference for a 3-bedroom holiday rental. This has happened 2 more times before, where I found myself in a tent in the yard or sleeping on the couch in the lounge room. Each time I became more frustrated and voiced my desire to have my own bedroom. 2 months ago, my parents announced in the family group chat that they were planning a trip to the coast for my 29th birthday. I was very excited because I hadn't had a holiday in a while and had been working very hard. I planned to take a week off work to relax at the coast. However, without consulting me, my father emailed the whole family and said that he had booked a 2-bedroom cabin at the coast. In his email, he explicitly stated that 1 bedroom was for my parents and the other for my sister and her husband. He offered me the choice of sleeping in a tent or on the couch. When I read this, my frustration reached its limit. I sent an email back to my father saying, "Thank you for organizing this, but could we please book a place with 3 bedrooms so that everyone can have privacy and their own space?" However, my father refused to accommodate my wishes, even when I offered to pay the cancellation fee and half the cost of a new place. Something about this incident triggered a change in my mindset. I decided not to join them for the holiday. On my birthday, I didn't answer phone calls from my parents, and instead messaged them back saying, "Thank you for the calls, but unfortunately, I cannot make it down for the holiday trip." They sent me multiple photos of them having fun on the trip, but since then, I haven't had much communication with them, approximately 2 months later. I am worried that I am being unreasonable, but I have honestly found it very frustrating to always be the one who doesn't get a bedroom. Putting my foot down recently may be partly due to the fact that I have been working extremely hard for the past 2 years and have been fortunate to really enjoy my job and be recognized as a leader in the office. The stark contrast between how I am treated with respect at work, where I treat everyone I interact with very well, and how I am treated like a child by my family, has fundamentally changed how I view them. Thank you for reading this, and I appreciate any advice on how to move forward. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. At first, I thought it was because of the higher cost of a 3-bedroom place, but you offered to pay the additional cost. So what was their reason for not getting a bigger place? Until you get a reasonable answer, I would not go on family vacations. However, if the rest of the interactions are good, then stay in touch. Just set your boundary when they do not treat you as an equal to your sister. Comment 2. Your parents are purposely treating you poorly. You've offered to pay the difference for accommodations, and they still refuse to book appropriate rentals. It's sad to say, but they don't value you and likely don't really want you around. I hope you have other friends and family that you can take vacations with. Don't continue to let your family disrespect you. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. So, let me tell you what happened next. After I skipped the trip, things got pretty heated. My sister called me and furious that I'd ruined the family vibe. She said I was being selfish, not thinking about how my absence affected everyone. I couldn't believe it. Here I was, standing my ground for once, and she had the nerve to call me selfish. A week later, my mom called, crying, saying how they all missed me and that I should have been there. I felt a pang of guilt, but I reminded myself that I deserved better. I told her I missed them too, but I couldn't keep being the afterthought. Then, out of nowhere, my sister's husband chimed in. He sent me a text saying he understood where I was coming from. That was a surprise. He even suggested they could have handled things differently. But my sister found out about his text and they had a huge fight. I heard about it through the grapevine, and it made me feel even worse. My stand for a bedroom was causing ripples I hadn't intended. Things were quiet for a bit until my dad's birthday rolled around. I thought it was a chance to mend fences, so I sent him a heartfelt card and a gift. But he didn't even acknowledge it. That hurt. It was like I didn't exist unless I played by their rules. Then, the news dropped. My sister announced she was pregnant. The family was overjoyed, and for a moment, it seemed like all was forgotten. But when they started planning a family trip to celebrate, guess what? 2-bedroom place again. I was floored. Had they learned nothing? I confronted my dad about it, and he said it was a simple oversight. But how many times can you overlook the same thing? I told him I wasn't going, and this time, I didn't feel guilty about it. The trip went ahead without me, and from the pictures, it looked like they had a great time. But then, my sister's husband reached out again. He said the trip wasn't the same without me, and that he missed our talks. He confessed that he felt stuck in the middle of all this, and didn't know how to make things right. I didn't know what to say. I appreciated his honesty, but it didn't change the fact that I was still being sidelined by my own family. And then, the unexpected happened. My sister's husband took a stand. He told my parents that if they didn't start treating me with more respect, they'd see less of him and my sister, especially once the baby arrived. It was a bold move, and it shook things up. My parents were stunned. They hadn't realized the impact of their actions, or maybe they just didn't want to see it. But faced with the possibility of being cut off from their grandchild, they started to rethink things. They called me, and for the first time, they apologized. They admitted they'd been unfair and promised to do better. They even offered to book a 3-bedroom place for the next trip to make up for everything. I was skeptical, but I agreed to give them another chance. And you know what? They kept their word. The next family gathering was different. I had my own room, and the atmosphere was more inclusive. It felt like a real family. But the real test came when my sister had her baby. I was worried about being pushed aside again. But to my surprise, they involved me in everything. I was there at the hospital, and I even got to hold my niece before anyone else. Except for the parents, of course. It was a turning point. My family finally started to treat me like an equal, and it felt good. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. And as for my sister's husband, he and I became closer than ever. His action had changed the family dynamic for the better. So that's where we are now. It's been pretty up and down, but things are looking up. I guess sometimes you have to stand up for yourself to make people see what they're doing wrong. And sometimes it takes someone else standing up for you to really drive the point home. Thanks for reading. My boyfriend's dad makes creepy comments and he does nothing. So I spill the beans to his mom and watch as their perfect family image crumbles. I'm not sure if I'm making too big of a deal about this. Yesterday, my boyfriend and I came to his parents' place for the weekend. This is my first time meeting them, and I was super excited about it. His mom is incredibly kind and sweet. She has made me feel at home. His dad, on the other hand, is giving me weird vibes. He insisted on helping me bring my bags to the bedroom. While we were alone up there, he looked me up and down and said, "Sees why Ben is so happy." He then said, "The room is pretty soundproof," and gave a wink. I just awkwardly laughed it off, and we went and had dinner. Ben's 2 sisters and their families got there after dinner, and we all were drinking and hanging out. I went to the kitchen to get some water, and his dad was in there. He said he was looking forward to what I wore on Easter, that it would show more of my assets. I didn't know what to do and just left and went to talk to Ben. I expected that he would stick up for me and talk to his dad. He did the opposite and said I should just ignore it. I said he needs to stand up for me. He then said I should feel flattered that he thinks I'm hot. I didn't even respond to that, just went to bed. Ben didn't follow me. This morning, Ben said he was sorry for what he said. But he wasn't completely sorry, as he still is saying I should just ignore his dad. All day I felt uncomfortable. I'm upset with Ben and don't want to be near his dad. I don't know his sisters enough to talk to them. I feel like a disappointment as I'm being really quiet all day and have been on my phone a bunch. Everyone is noticing something is wrong with Ben and me, but won't ask about it. At this point, I just want to leave. But my parents are in a different state and I'm 5 hours away from home without my car. How do I deal with a creepy dad? Edit. I called my dad and he booked tickets back home while we were on the phone. I've never heard him so angry before. I'm trying to find a place to go while I wait for them in the morning. Thank you all for the support. Edit #2. I'm at a relative's house now. My dad's great-aunt's daughter lives about 25 minutes from where I was. My dad reached out to them, and she came and picked me up. So now I'm just watching basketball with her and her family. I waited until they pulled into the driveway. Then I asked Ben to come outside. He was confused as to why I had my bag. I told him I couldn't be with someone who would allow me to be in that situation without standing up for me. He was upset and said I was overreacting. I said goodbye and then left. I did leave a note for his mom, though I couldn't bring myself to tell her everything. This is what I wrote. Maureen, thank you so much for your hospitality. I'm so sorry to leave without saying anything. Your husband said some uncomfortable things to me and I couldn't stay. If you have any questions, I told Ben everything. Thanks again all. Your support really meant a lot through all of this. I'm pretty sad but feel good for standing up for myself. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Dude, go to your boyfriend and say this. I do not feel safe. You are meant to make me feel welcome and safe. If you wish to continue being in a relationship, you will step in and tell your dad it's not appreciated that he keeps his comments about his girlfriend to himself. Otherwise, you will leave and tell his mother on the way out. You then call your parents, get a hotel room, and wait. I'm pretty sure your parents would happily rescue you and tell you to leave him. Disrespectful boyfriend you have there. Comment 2. Honey, call your parents. Let them help you get home. You are in an unsafe situation and you're right to be upset. Your boyfriend just proved he is an unsafe person, just like his dad. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. His father will get worse. It's a guarantee now that he knows you've accepted it by staying. I'm sorry they did this to you. Go home. Have a happy Easter with your parents. Now, for the update, a lot has happened since my last post, and I'm not sure if I'm making too big of a deal about this. After I left Ben's family's house, things went from bad to worse. I thought I was done with the whole ordeal, but it turns out I was just at the beginning. My dad's great-aunt's daughter, let's call her Jane, was kind enough to take me in. I was grateful, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. I tried to focus on the basketball game, but my mind was racing with what had just happened. A few days later, I got a call from Ben's mom, Maureen. She was crying, asking me what her husband had done to make me leave like that. I hesitated, but I told her everything. There was a long silence, and then she thanked me and hung up. I felt a mix of relief and dread, not knowing what would come next. The next thing I knew, Ben was blowing up my phone with calls and texts. He was furious, saying I'd ruined his family. I ignored him, but he didn't stop. Then, one evening, Jane told me that Ben had shown up at her doorstep, demanding to talk to me. She didn't let him in, but it was clear he wasn't going to let this go. Meanwhile, Maureen had confronted her husband, and it had caused a huge rift in the family. Ben's sisters were split. One believed me, the other stood by her father. The family was tearing apart at the seams, and somehow I was at the center of it all. I felt guilty, like I was the one who had caused all this pain, even though I knew it wasn't my fault. I was just trying to stand up for myself. But the situation escalated when Ben's dad lost his job. He worked at a local company with a strict code of conduct, and rumors of his behavior had reached his boss. The community was small and news traveled fast. Ben was relentless. He blamed me for his dad's job loss, for the family's turmoil. He said I had overreacted and that I should have kept quiet. I couldn't believe he still didn't understand why I had to do what I did. It was like he was a stranger to me now. One night, Jane's family had enough of the drama. They sat me down and told me I had to find another place to stay. They were kind, but they said they couldn't handle the constant tension. I felt ashamed and alone, having to leave yet another home because of this mess. I moved in with a friend from college who lived in the area. She was supportive, but I could tell she was worried about getting dragged into the drama. I tried to keep to myself, to not cause any more trouble for anyone else. Then, one day, I got a letter from a lawyer. Ben's dad was suing me for defamation. He claimed I had lied about him and that I was responsible for his job loss and the damage to his reputation. My heart sank. I didn't have the money for a lawyer and I didn't know what to do. But then, something unexpected happened. Ben's sister, the one who had believed me, reached out. She said she had proof of her father's inappropriate behavior from years ago. She had kept silent out of fear, but she couldn't watch me suffer for telling the truth. She offered to testify on my behalf. The lawsuit fell apart quickly after that. Ben's dad had no case with his own daughter against him. The family was in shambles, but there was a sense of vindication, at least for me. I had been telling the truth, and now everyone knew it. Ben tried to apologize, saying he had been blind to his father's true nature. But it was too late. I couldn't forgive him for not standing by me when I needed him the most. I told him it was over for good, and I meant it. I'm still picking up the pieces of my life, trying to move on from the chaos of the past month. It's been hard, but I'm getting there, one step at a time. I've learned a lot about who I can trust and who I can't. And I've learned that standing up for myself is the right thing to do, no matter the consequences. Thank you for reading. Your support has been a lifeline through all of this. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.